Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we begin, let me give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. We had Deku. We also had Bakugo, Kirishima, and Ochako, who were in quite the pickle. Now, they had less than 24 hours to evacuate a large city known for its trade, one vital to the kingdom of Vanja. Now, Kaldi is the name of this city. It is home to hundreds of thousands of people. It's got great trade, and it does reside in a desert. However, knowing they have less than a day to evacuate hundreds of thousands of people is not good. The other heroes, they found where they needed to be. And when the Cataclysm finally arrived and the event started, they learned that this thing may be rampaging in the desert for 3 months. However, what happens afterwards, they don't know. They began to buy time. Whenever Kirishima used his unique skill to amplify all of their powers by 4 times, they skyrocketed. Indra was the only member of their party here. The other members of the other heroes' parties were in Kaldi trying to evacuate the city, trying to help guide things out and helping the army here with the evacuation. And while it may be chaotic, the heroes are fighting with all the heart they can. Deku had an idea, and that idea failed. Ochako has a plan, but she already wasted enough mana discovering this thing can fly after she tried to cast a banishment spell on it. Now, Deku, him and the others are trying to take this thing on, and slowly but surely they were able to pile on damage while this thing was rampaging and leading it away from the city. However, whenever Kirishima's ability deactivated, their bumps and bruises, they didn't exactly stick anymore. They went from doing some decent damage and Deku even taking one of this thing's heads off to it now barely registering the damage itself. Now then, with that being said, let us pick up a few hours later. The heroes, they're in quite the conundrum. The Cataclysm was able to heal some of the damage, and its 4th head, it's almost completely rebuilt. It has been healing its body. And right now, they are fighting later into the night. Deku, he's tired. The other heroes are tired. And right now, Kirishima, he does feel his abilities deactivate. Him flying in the air and sweating profusely. The runes covering his body, not allowing him to understand this. They protect him. They are enchanted. And right now, he does try to move out of the way. Before he does go to avoid a strike of lightning that may have been lethal. And Bakugo, he does go to fly behind, trying to cast more explosions into this large creature. It ignoring them and beginning to make its way back towards the large city. They let it far enough away that they may have a few minutes. Maybe 15. By the time Kirishima's ability does recharge enough, they break it down and the cycle starts again. They've exhausted a few potions and have tried to do what they can. But that's it. Indra flying up and asking if there's anything more they can do. Her huffing and puffing with breath. Him turning to her and seeing that she's just as tired as they are. And Ochako does float by Deku, talking about how she does have a plan. I don't think we can try banishing it again. Are your reserves even that high? No, they aren't. But we need something. Potions? Yeah, I'm good. Mana potions? I have some, but I don't know if they'll work with his abilities. They might. We could go with that idea for now. Maybe, but we need something lasting. It's elemental damage. It's resistant to most of what we have. My light magic works on it, but none of yours work on it, do they? My sword works on it, but cutting through that thing is like cutting through, I don't know, a really hard rock. It doesn't seem possible. I know my blade won't break, but still, I feel like my arms are vibrating out of the sockets. We need a proper plan. Indra, going to express. They can't underestimate it anymore. The next time the boost happens, they need something. Is there anything in their arsenals that can help? Him trying to think of a plan. He's modified the winter storm. That didn't work. It's immune to those damage types. So they need something else. They need something that can work. It's immune to everything they can throw at it. Almost. Light magic and shadow magic. Those do seem to be at least piling on, along with explosive magic. Okay, so them flying out of the way when one of the cataclysm does go to swipe out attack towards them. Deku grabbing Indra and flying to the right with his wings. Right now, him pushing away from her as they do both go to dodge a lightning strike. And they do need to talk about it using message. Him trying to tell Bakugo if he's got any spare abilities in that freaking tab of his to spec into them. Right now they don't got a lot to work with. Him telling Deku back that he doesn't. Before he doesn't send the message over to Kirishima. And all of them are trying to scatter to figure out how to handle this. The plans they have aren't working. They only have limited magics to work with. And right now, this city might fall. They're out of power. They need to evacuate. They need to restore their own abilities. Though, if Kirishima can get them... No, they can't give up here. This is on Deku's mind. Fury is still active. He knows once it drops, he's going to be exhausted. He knows that for sure. But bringing his hand up and drinking down a mana potion, feeling his reserves begin to go back up. They really cannot risk that. It's going to be risky, but maybe. Does he have enough? Going to quickly check and see his mana reserve. And it doesn't seem sufficient. With help from Ochako, he might be able to cast a spell. But the winter storm doesn't work. Maybe bind it to the land? But that's a different realm of magic entirely, and Ochako is a massive reservoir of knowledge. She's shown off some interesting magic, but she's concerned about what she can and can't throw at it. Okay. They need a plan. Bakugo flying in and going to strike this thing as hard as he can with his power. And it does go to ignore the damage, stomping its way through. Right now, him flying past with projectile body, soaring back into the air and trying to think. As he does going to fly over to Ochako, saying something to her as she does going to turn, going to begin downing some mana potions and chugging them. As Deku does come flying up and Kirishima does going to matches all of them. That they've got a few seconds left. What do they have as a plan? And he does go to bring up his hand. Deku grabbing his grimoire and begin to try and flip through the pages of it. A spell that can work, a spell that can work. He knows that there's something here. He knows that there's something here. He just needs something. The cataclysm roaring out with four of its heads. And Bakugo, he does get a turn. Right now, trying to draw his attention away. Blasting out with his own Eldritch Blast. It going to take the attack as it'll fly to the right. One of the heads focusing on him. As Ochako does get a fly backwards and Deku does move higher up into the air. the two try to talk and converse about what to do. And Ochako does try to recommend an idea. Has he tried doing that one technique? What do they call it? They call it the freeze? No, it was something like that. I know the spell, but it's got this ridiculous, stupid name. Yes, I know, but have you tried it? Last time I tried experimenting with that spell, I was bitten by a giant freaking spider. It didn't work, and I cast it wrong. And it does take a lot of mana. The casting time lasts a while, but it's not worth it. We're only dealing with one opponent. What does it require? Concentration. But yeah, that's the problem. Okay, and how bad is it? It's a 7th level spell. 7th level? Yeah, and I don't know. It's powerful, but I've messed around with the rune work a little bit. I know what we can do. Do you? Him going to fly back down. As one of the two, they do to reunite. Him handing her the book as is a flyby. Going to spin around and going to dive under one of its legs, slicing into one of the armpits of the creature with his blade. And she does a turn seeing that. Before she does go to fly backwards into the air and begin to read things off and go to make a spell circle in front of her. Her being to adjust in shape how certain things are. And Deku, he does go to fly underneath the creature again for a second pass, turning his head when he does a spin around with a whirlwind slash, trying to take out the limbs of the creature to slow it down more. And the creature does let go to buckle on that side. Deku turning his head and seeing what she's doing. Before he does a turn, watching Bakugo, who does go to bring his hands up and go to do something with explosions. Him seeing something strange on that spell. And his eyes, they're focused. But right now, they're distracted focusing on his spell. Magical runes are strange, and they're different for each type of magic. He knows that. Reinforcement magic is a very interesting version of magic. Sometimes, if you concentrate hard enough, it doesn't require words nor incantation. Like many other magics, they use. But he has heard that wordless spellcasting, it's a powerful ability. It's not unique to just them, but mastery over that skill is nearly impossible for an amateur. And he does stare at some of those runes, not recognizing some of them, but understanding the language they're in. And this does intrigue him slightly. Before he does a fly back up towards Ochako and ask her what she's doing. And she is telling him, going to hold the book up with the left hand, that she needs him to do every 3rd, 5th, and 1st rune. Him looking down, bring his hand up as his sword does disappear into his inventory. Before he does to have his runes begin to flow up to hers. And she does understand. Before she does tell Izuku, follow along with her now. And the two, they do try to cast this spell together. And the Cataclysm, it is the sole target. Before they do to aim the spell down and blast down directly at the Cataclysm. It going to look up as the area around it, it is covered in a blue field. And everyone, they do to fly backwards and away. Not sure what type of attack this might be this time. As the Cataclysm, it does go stand there and its body does go to stop. The motion around it ceasing. And Ochako and Deku, the two are huffing and puffing. Right now, them unable to catch their breath. And that is bad. Him floating there. Before the book does a little fall forwards and Ochako does begin to fall. Deku turning to see that and going to dive. Going to try to catch her before she's going to hit the ground. And the other heroes, they do to land in the desert sand when he does land down and put her to the sand. before trying to make sure she's alive and she doesn't have any wounds with his abilities. Though he doesn't stand picking her back up, realizing she's tired. And when Bakugo and Kirishima make their way over, they do talk about it. So, what's happening? Is it? No, it's not. We casted a spell. It's hard to explain, but it took both of us to cast it. It's gonna keep it in place for a minute. I don't know how long because of its power, but normally it would last a day, a week, depending on the target, but this thing, I don't know. All I know is we might have bought ourselves an hour, and that's an hour we need to rest. I'm tired, I'm out of magic, and I think we all need a minute to catch our breaths. Alright? Indra going to land. And she is a good example of this. All of them turning to her and seeing the toll of exhaustion on her face. Though she is still trying to keep up with them. And they do it a turn, before turning to fly to Kaldi, trying to see if there might be anyone there who can help back them up in this fight. If there is, they need them here and now. They've had more than enough time, hopefully. And when the heroes do arrive, they find the city is mostly barren, but military forces do occupy it. And when they do come to land down, people are skeptical of them. But the moment they are seen, people from the castle and royal guards do immediately begin to give orders about what to do, hoping that the cataclysm has been taken out. But they're only told one simple thing. They left it out in the desert, frozen in a spell, a stasis field. It won't last for very long, but it might still buy them enough time. And that it's the main problem they're having. Time is the issue. Time isn't doing good for them. And it does slightly annoy Deku. And when the two do get to finally sit down, he does sit there sipping a potion. Someone who handed it to him, bring him some water and even some food. Him looking at the plate and trying to just gain his bearing, or bringing his hand down, grabbing the water and pouring it directly over his head, shaking out his hair and going to take a breath, as that felt more refreshing than anything. And Bakugo, he does sit there similarly, Kirishima sitting with him as well, though right now he is wolfing down some food ravenously. And he does a turn, asking if he thinks they have a chance. Oh, we might. That spell was powerful. It's one I abandoned in my training. It was too advanced, and then I cast it properly. I messed it up before, but she and I cast it together, so we might have gotten enough time. Someone walking up to them, a man in armor asking about what to do. And Izuku does wave the man away, telling him, continue following orders. Do whatever his commander has commanded. And the man does get a nod, as he does a turn back, expressing he still doesn't get why they try and get orders from them. Maybe they're trying to just be helpful. Yeah, but they might be slaughtered out there, right? Them turning to Kirishima. If they have someone stronger, then maybe. My power is good, but it's close. I can feel it. I'm right there, you know? Level 5 is in my grasp. One of my abilities leveled up earlier, and I thought it was. Never mind. I felt stupid. What's it at right now? I'm looking down, checking the status of it and talking about it. He's right there. He just needs to do it. Maybe he should try and train, do something. Just try and help himself out. And he does a turn to Deku, turning to Bakugo, hoping that one of them will give him the answer to this question: how to break through to level 5. And both of them, they do just look at him. Before he does a turn, looking at Ochako, who does go to rest on the bench, quietly sleeping, as she has yet to regain consciousness. And everyone, they do get a somewhat stare at that. Exhaustion. That's what they feel. And right now, they need to hurry this up. If people have to go in and fight that thing who aren't them, then that could be on their heads. They're supposed to save these damn people. And these are some of the thoughts going through Izuku's mind. They have to rely on each other, bear this burden together. But that's the problem. It's too big this time. They need something else. And Indra does come walking over, sitting down and talking about it, asking Bakugo about his explosive magic. Deku turning his head. I didn't recognize some of those runes. Trying to take his mind off of these lingering thoughts. Huh? Yeah. Bring his hand up. Going to create the magic circle without producing any of the power. Talking about it. It's kind of simple. You take the runes for explosion magic and you spark them. It's not that bad. Though with a slight tweak on this one, and this one, you do get the kind of popping you get. Deku bring his hand up. Talking about it. Okay, but what about these runes over here? Because he knows that those ones there are for controlling it on the right side. They are. And what about this section here? These two seem split off. That's right. They're kind of a different section. This one's for control over the explosion, and this one's for power. I mean, if I take out the control, then I risk a lot worse casualties. The area getting more impact from the explosion. It's more powerful. Yeah, but that's a control rune. That's something I'm not using right now. You're not? No, I'm condensing the mana a little bit and pushing the spell to the max, but it's still not doing anything. I thought I was doing something, but without the boost, I'm not. I mean, hell. We managed to crack one of its legs, and if that thing heals before we get back to it, then I'm not sure. If we can cripple it, then it might work. Maybe. But you're overloading a spell. Isn't that dangerous? Kind of. I'm just making sure to modify it slightly. And not too badly. Deku bring his hand up. Before he does go to copy the runes Bakugo did make. Though the rest of the circle he does look at. He modified the winter storm. So, with more power and less control over it, he can definitely do something. But what could he do? Looking at his hand. Before he does try to think. There's a few spells that Theodore wants him to learn. One was highly dangerous. He learned about it in his studies. But, that spell was a little too rich for his blood. Too dangerous. If he remembers correctly, the runes go... going to create them. And when they do start to appear on Deku's hand, he does start to experiment with a few things. He moves the control that way. He moves the destructive force over there. And if he does have it right, if he does... Wait. No, something about this is... Something about the pattern on this is working. But why does this rune circle almost work. This interesting Deku. Trying to tweak it a bit more. Runecrafting is an art that he's begun to take upon. Sometimes it's automatic, but smaller tweaks, they do make a spell more interesting. And right now he's just messing with something in his hand. He wonders if casting it can work. I'll have to talk with Ochako about that. If she's gone into more studies than him, then she'll definitely know what he's trying to do. Him feeling something on the back of his neck, for he's to turn his head and not see anybody. And right now, after eating, everyone, they do try to get some sleep in. Replenish not only the lost energy, but the lost mana they do have. And we do have about a few hours later. Ochako does a splash water directly on each of them. Bakugo, Deku, and Kirishima jumping up and going to bring up their hands. Her talking about it. They need to move now. What's happening? The cataclysm. It's on the move. I went back to check on it. What happened after we got away? You were asleep, you passed out, it froze. Good. This is Caldy? It is. So what are we doing now? We need a plan. Well, I definitely feel better. Bakugo going to stretch his arms out, talking about it. Turning to Deku, asking him if he can fix the injuries they have now. Kirishima lining up as Ochako does talk about it. Kirishima needs to go in and get ready. Her and Izuku might need to try and figure out a better plan for magic. Does he know anything with his studies? No, I don't. But what about you? Anything I can help with? You have light magic. So do I. I think we all do, right? I do too, but it might be the weakest. Deku gonna say. And she does a turn confirming this. Her abilities are far stronger than his. And he wants to be insulted, but he kind of can't be. And she does talk about it. Okay, that's fine. They all have an ability that can hurt the cataclysm. So, what they need is a proper plan. Aim for one of its legs or take out one of the heads again. I think maybe we should try and aim for the leg. We've still already got damage on it and it might work. Bakugo's right. If we take out the leg, it can limit the movement. And then it might be easier to banish. How are you feeling? Her turning her head. Before seeing her mana reserves, they have begun to replenish. Along with the fact that her stamina, it is above her acceptable range. Right now, her pulling potions from her inventory, turning to the two and offering them one. Talking about how they can pay her back after they are still alive. And the two do both go to down the potions quickly. As they do jump back to full, and Izuku does stare at that, knowing that that was probably a hefty amount of gold he just drank. Right now, still feeling invigorated. Bakugo flying up into the air as Ochako and Deku do begin to float up, trying to talk about the possible challenges they're dealing with. Though Izuku, he does try to think. He got an odd feeling about that one circle he made earlier. And potentially using it? Could it work? He's heard of wild magic, but this doesn't seem like that. I mean, he accidentally created slime magic with transmutation circles, right? He had a rune wrong, and whenever he tried to cast it, it didn't work when he was trying to create chain magic, so there's that. And he does bring this up to Ochako. Before he does hold up his hand, and she does float there, grabbing his hand quickly by the wrist and stopping it from moving, staring down at the runes and looking back up at him, asking what the hell he's trying to do. This looks like explosion magic. It looks like a. What is this? I can hardly read it. I know. But look, him manipulating some of the runes. Before he does begin to pull some transmutation runes into the circle, it getting larger and larger, and the writing on it getting smaller and smaller again. Before she does it, watch Deku do one thing you shouldn't do in a spell. Pull out the safeguards in every one of the components for it. And the moment she does see that, she does look at Deku as if he's a madman, asking if he's trying to get himself killed. No, I'm just saying. Do you think that it would work? Her hearing the roar and the cataclysm, it doesn't argue. It doesn't give them time to hash this out. And she does the turn back and flying into battle. Deku going to join her and dropping this idea. Something about it, it's piquing his interest, his mind. But he didn't even get to the idea he had about it. Maximize power, minimize control, and lengthen the range. Yeah, it does have range on it. But the butchery shop of that rune, something about it scares her. And this does mean a bit. Him going to try and cast it whenever he does get into battle. Though whenever Deku does pour mana into the spell, nothing goes to happen. He gets a strange tingling sensation on his palm. And that's it. Before Kirishima does roar out, and everyone, they do feel themselves amp back up. And Indra, she is flying around. Her trying to do what she can to take out the lake. As Deku and Ochako do come flying in with their amped powers. Deku slicing into this thing's leg and going to do what it can. Him going to take out a part of it as it does begin to move forwards. Roaring out in pain and trying to spin its body around. Beginning to float up into the air as Ochako does go to bash it directly into the leg as hard as she can with a magic missile. And Izuku, he does go to watch that, bring his hand up and going to slice into it, activating his ability again. Though this time, he doesn't activate it again, flying around the leg. And he does wonder about how much he can use this power. Try and draw it out more, continue the slashing motion for as long as he can. Maybe 5 seconds? How much he can withstand it? And this, it does have a good idea. Bakugo going to fly in and smash explosion magic directly into this thing's leg. It going to smash in as the leg does going to finally begin breaking apart and disintegrating. It going to off balance and crash down body weight onto the desert sand. And one of the heads does get a turn. It trying to roar out and blast at them. As right now, there is where storm clouds do begin to float up into the sky. And everyone, they do try to disband, trying to get away as much as they can from the clouds. And it does mean to cast down lightning directly towards them. Some of them having to fly around and get away from it. Deku fighting himself, dodging and weaving through the storm lightning that he doesn't see. Before he has to take a blow directly to the back and begin to fly down, crashing into the sand and bringing his hand to create a barrier. It being struck again as there is where the earth, it does begin to move around him. Him going to fly up into the air as fast as he can, turning and looking around, before watching as an explosion does shoot out and Bakugo does go flying back up. He doesn't see Indra. He doesn't see Ochako. Where's Kirishima? Him turning his head and watching Kirishima blast directly into the fire head. Him crashing into it and cutting it through with his axe. Before it does have the waterhead blast his mouth directly down onto him and send him flying away. Flying through the air as the lightning ability, the lightning cataclysm does get to turn its own head, blasting out towards him and going for the attack. Him bring up the barrier and going to defend himself. Before Izuku, he does stare at that, thinking about what to do and watching Karasuno imbue a magic missile with light magic, smashing it directly into that creature. And Izuku, he does stare at that again, thinking about what to do, flying him into the air and trying to go for the other leg, going to slice him with its knee and turning. Going to spin as Ochako does begin to hold up her hands and he does see the rune circles for a spell. Her blasting it out and going to disintegrate an area of the leg. It going to roar out as it does get somewhat buckle down forwards. Right now, both of its back legs taking significant damage. And Ochako does turn, staring at Deku as he does have it click. Those runes, some of them, what he does, a pattern. Okay, hang on. Bring up both of his hands. The runes gonna remake themselves and an idea forming. Something about it feels right. Something about it is calling to him. His curiosity. It means a lot. Ochako watching Deku, as right now he does begin to see something form. And whenever he does go to complete the patterns on him, they do look quite significant, quite advanced. The rune work in his hands, it does give off a strange orange glow. And this tells him one simple thing. He might have done it. He can understand what this might be now. And Ochako, she does go flying towards him, crashing directly into Izuku and roaring out in anger at him. As right now, the two, they were nearly hit by a fireball. And he does go crash in the sand. We're going to get back up, getting onto his feet and turning to Ochako, seeing her climbing up as he tries to think. Bakugo swimming around it and trying to take out one of the other heads. And Izuku does turn looking for Indra, not seeing her. And when he is going to finally snap fully out of this madness he does to find himself consumed in, he does see her lying in the sand, quickly rushing over and bending down, bringing his hands down onto her stomach and going to heal her, pulling her body back together as she does finally gasp out a breath that does not feel like a shattered rib pierced her lung. And she does a turn, coughing up some of the blood and bring her hand up, grabbing Deku and getting back to her feet, before she does get turned to the creature, asking how the hell they're gonna beat that thing. I don't know, but I have a plan. It feels right. What does? You're crazy. I don't know. Something about it. It's I don't know how to explain it. Just do you trust me? Do I have a choice? It's not that I have a choice, you. It's not like I have a choice, Izuku. You and the others are all we've got right now. Right. Well then, I'm not sure how this is gonna work, but my abilities are telling me that it's gonna. You trust them? Him want to smile before he does go shoot back up into the air with his wings, and she does follow after him, not wanting to let her rival leave her in the dust, not wanting to let her friend surpass her. And this does mean a lot. Right now the group, they do fly back together, them converging on this thing's back and letting out a massive attack aimed at the center. Ochako trying to create another wall that she can use to confine it, wanting to see what she can do. Her bring her hands up as the threads in her hands, they do try to slice into the stone, constrict it and stop its movement, even trying to saw through the material. And it still has yet to do anything good. She's making marks, she's making bruises, but some of them are healing. Areas where the stone, it's clearly cracked up and burned. It's something. It's dragging itself along slowly. Immobilize one other leg. That's all they have to do. Immobilize the last fucking leg, and it can barely go anywhere. And Izuku, he does come flying in. Before he has to fly around and bring his hands up. And the moment he has to pour magic into this new rune circle, he does begin to hear something. He does begin to feel it. And he does go to push. The magic going to fizzle out as he has a turn. Right on one of the elementals going to turn their heads towards him and blasting out at him. Deku taking the attack turkey from the fire elemental. Him going to move backwards and crash in the sand as he does a turn of glass around him. Getting back to his feet and going to pull himself back together. Before he does go to look back up and fly back into the air. Wondering about why it didn't work. Looking back down and trying to think. Pouring more magic. Pushing it. And he doesn't understand. Bringing his hands together and clapping them. Before pulling them back and going to pour the runes directly at each other. Wanting to know why it's not working. The magic. He feels it. Something is happening here. But why? Why isn't it working? And Izuku, he does think about what Bakugo said. These runes are based in explosion. They're based on other forms and schools of magic. Overload? No, the control rune. It's from Bakugo's explosion magic. But it's... he sees. That might be what he has to do. That's why. It's not that he can't. Him beginning to bring his hands up and pull something back. Getting ready. He knows what he has to do. The two circles floating in the air. And Izuku does begin by inserting something in the middle of them with a simple rune. And this, he does get now. Bring his hands up and going to get ready. Pouring magic into them as the rune circle, it does begin to crack. It does begin to break. It does begin to pour with orange lightning, and it does begin to get more and more unstable. And Izuku, he does go to bring his hand up and go to touch it. Right now, him pouring with spirit as the new form of magic, it does a blast out at the cataclysm. Something flying at it and crashing into it. And the moment it does, they do to watch as a piece of it does go to disappear. And Izuku does watch that. As Ochako's eyes go wide. And Izuku, he does go to stand there, holding his hand up, as right now he does get to feel a burning sensation pouring through his wrist. And blood, it does begin to squirt out of the muscles of his left forearm. And he does stagger backwards, feeling the bone in his arm break, feeling the power he just exerted in that. And the cataclysm does firmly turn towards Deku. As right now, he does look up at the creature. And this means a bit. Deku bringing his hand up and going to cast a second spell. The second spell being more unstable and hitting the cataclysm even harder. This time, it exposing more of its torso and the left arm going to crack. It unable to bear the weight on half of the limb. And this does going to make that leg give out and crash. One of the heads turning and blasting directly at Deku. Kirishima crashing down and creating a barrier directly in front of him. Before he does a turn and see Izuku. Izuku staggering backwards as the muscles in his stomach do begin to burst with blood. And he does a look up whenever Kirishima does get a turn. Him watching as Deku's eyes go from bloodshot red to turning back to the normal white. Watching as Deku's arm does a twist back to normal and the muscles do begin to heal. Asking him exactly what the hell he just did. Deku looking down at his wrist and seeing the runes that have been burned into them. And he does try to ignore the screaming in his head. Ignore the screaming through his body. But he does a turn for a second. hearing that voice, and he doesn't hear the whisper in his ear. Before he does turn back, bring his hand up, and going to recast that spell. It being to pour into his hands, and he does it a fly up, bring his hands up, and going to make the spell more unstable, blasting out as the range does go to increase. And the moment this ball of energy does go crashing into the cataclysm, it does go to roar out. It taking the attack, and the Earth's body of it does begin to crack and break. It going to be exposed for about the upper part of the torso. Its lower back being still prominently there. And Izuku, he does go to spit blood from his mouth for a second, feeling his mouth be full of it. And he does try to heal himself from this injury before he goes crashing down into the sand and feeling something wrong. He knows he overexerted his spirit. He's damaged it. But this feels like a pain on his soul. This is spiritual damage. Psychic damage? And no, something's wrong with his mind. And it doesn't feel right. Right now, him going to pull himself back together with wound manipulation. And his skill does get a beep informing him of its level up. Him feeling himself and analyzing his body. And when he does see the damage, he does ignore it, going to look back up and realizing he does have Fury active. All this is feeling, it's his body beginning to give out on him. If he turns off Fury, he may pass out from the pain. If he turns off Fury, he might die in the fucking sand. And that means a bit. He's ignoring the pain. That's why it didn't work. Something was telling him to stop, and that was why. His own mind is against him with this magic. And he does go to bring his hand up, manifesting his sword, flying in as the others do begin to try and bombard the cataclysm with what they can. If they take out the body of it, then it will go down. Something will happen. And everyone, they do go to descend on the torso of the cataclysm, hoping breaking the neck of it will make the heads crash, make them all disintegrate. And Izuku's newfound ability, it does slightly concern them. Whatever he's doing, it's practically suicidal with magic. And Ochako herself, she's wondering about herself. She's never heard of that type of ability. If it's based on disintegration magic, why isn't it known? Why isn't it taught? What exactly did Izuku just do? And everyone, they do begin to fight. Right now, someone crashing down onto one of the heads and going to attack it. Ochako restraining the one made out of lightning. And Bakugo, he is fighting the one made of fire with his shadow ability and his explosions. And Kirishima, he is trying to take out the one made of water. And Izuku, he does climb to his feet, still trying to move, still trying to do something. And he does go to hear something else in his head again, looking up and seeing a woman standing in front of him. She is stumbling backwards, as Rhino is to find someone catching him with an arm and asking if he's alright, before he has to fall back down to a knee and look up, looking at the cataclysm as he does go to heal himself again. This time, him focusing on the part of his mind that feels fractured. And he does go look up and begin to manifest his spiritual wings, telling her about how they need to take it down. And she does stare at Deku, who seems to be half conscious. Him going to fly up to attack, and she does join him. Deku slicing into it with his blade, and he does try to carve into its torso. However, whenever the blue glow does begin to pour out of the top of the cataclysm, he does see that. Him going to try and get on to its large back, wondering about what they can do to it. And this creature, it does go to turn its heads towards him. The moment all three heads are turned towards Deku, the others do immediately go to attack as hard as they can, knowing that whatever he's doing, it must not be what it wants. And that it does mean something. Deku bringing his hand up and crashing inside its back, the part of it that he destroyed. And he does get to feel something. He feels magic being pulled from around him, magic being channeled into something. Bring his weapon up and begin to slice through the earth, slice through something, before he does hear a cracking sound. Him flying backwards up into the air as a cataclysm, it does begin to be pulled in on itself. Him watching as a light does shoot up into the sky, and it does go to announce the end of the event. Everyone watching on as the area around them, it does begin to pour with magic. And this, it's quite alarming. As Deku, he does go to sit there on the ground, going to fall backwards and try to think about what to do, before a strange creature does come walking up. It going to bite his hair, and he doesn't open his eyes for a second, looking at the get away, going to wave his hand. And the creature, it does not move. It does go to let go of his hair, but it's still there. He's never seen this animal before. Going to sit up and turn to it. Reptilian? No, it has teeth. It's like a dog, but it has scales. No, it has scales and armor. No, it's not a dog at all. It's got tails with fins on them, and what the hell are these things? Him staring at it. And as I turn looking around, watching as other creatures, they are similarly walking around. And this is where Indra does come walking over. Her going to bend down and ask him if he's alright. Yeah, I'm fine. Where's my blade? Her turning her head and looking around, before she does spot it and walk over, bending down to grab it and going to hold it up, turning and showing Deku that the guard of it, it's broken. Though the piece is still intact. Though all the fancy things on the blade, yeah, his handle is completely busted. Right now a simple wrap could work, but if he wants to get all that done again, he might have to talk to a dwarf. Or maybe even find an Oni. They do know these type of blades the best. And he does nod his head, taking the metal handle and going to grab it, before taking the pieces of his weapon and going to put it in his inventory. Surprised that it survived. Hell, he's happy that the whole event has been concluded. Indra gonna jump, turning and looking around, quite alarmed by what she's hearing. And Deku, he does gotta continue listening in, as it does express. The event has been concluded. Participation level required. Level 200. All participants are currently under this level, and because of this, they have received double the XP for participating in this event. The leaderboard popping up as Deku does feel the rush of power go through him. As it does express, before they do get into the current rankings for top participation in the event, they have been given +5 to their power skill, and +40 to all of their physical and mental abilities. Their skills have leveled up. Non-magical skills do not level with this event. Him listening to that part, as the system does begin to pop names on screen, and he does get to see his name at the top. expressing Izuku Midoriya, first place, landed killing blow on Catechism Core, and he has been able to stack on about 30% of the damage on this creature. Event ended in under 24 hours. Total event time 19 hours, 32 minutes. Him looking at that, it popping up next with a Chaco. Before his screen does get a turn, and he does get to see the reward section start flashing. Him seeing Baku in third place, and seeing Kirishima in fourth, seeing Indra in fifth as he turns his head. Looking at her, and seeing in the corner of his vision, she's looking off into space. She sees it too. And then he does a turn to the tab, clicking on it as it does have a section telling him. One of the sections expressing, he can pick from the following rewards. Would he like an artifact? Would he like a weapon? An armor piece? Would he like a magic item? Or would he like a new skill? And he does a stare at that before his eyes do draw away from the magic section, which is crossed out. And that he doesn't mind. Right now, him going to click the section for a magic item. And it does a flash with his current level, seeing that he went up by 57 levels. And that he can only imagine how many skill points he does have after that. Before the item does a pop into his hand and the screen does disappear. Deku's staring at a water skin. Okay, what is this? It's got runes on it. Some he does recognize. His eye is being drawn to his wrist. And the runes are moving. What the hell? Staring at them. They're moving on his skin, but they don't burn. Looking at his other wrist, before he does put the water skin away. Right now, just saying that he'll mess with this item later. Before he's a turn to see Ochako, who she does go to hold an empty pair of hands, showing she might have already done the same thing. Right now, her and him both looking around as he's going to look over to Bakugo, who does stand there holding up an egg. And he talks about it. He can't be serious with this, right? What did you get? I picked magic item. This is what I get? Seriously? What were your options? I mean, I could have gotten an artifact or a piece of armor. I picked an item. I thought it would be better. But a giant egg? I mean, what can I do with this other than make 100 omelets? All of them with a laugh, as they do return to Kirishima, since his reward might be worse. And he does get to someone sit there on his knees. Where he's stand back up and express, oh man, he didn't get any options like that. He just got more points. But, so this means that they win. That was some crazy power, though. All of them looking back at Deku, who does get someone scratch at his wrist, before they do try to ask what the hell he did. I don't know. It was something, though. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm all tapped out of mana, and I'm tired. Honestly, not even counting my abilities are painful. Him grabbing the side of his head, and they all do kind of understand. All of them are in a good deal of pain, both mentally and physically exhausted. As there is actually Indra, who does go to grab Deku by his arm, and he does a turn, her asking if this is what it's like for him. Is this thing what he experiences every time? All the time? Not exactly, no. You got a great deal stronger, though. Did I? I feel more powerful. What was that, though? A sign from the gods? That was the system. We all have it. And I'm guessing with you being around here and around us, you kind of get it too? You know how Oliver mentioned that strange voice he hears? I don't trust much of what he does say. I believe he is cursed. No, during training with his enhancement ability. Remember that? I believe so. That was a unique skill, a rare ability, one he got from making a deal. So you hear voices like that a lot. We get notifications about our abilities getting stronger on the fly. Her staring at him confused. Before he does express, bring his hand up. It's magic. That's all he does understand about it. Her nodding her head as if that made any sense. Nezuko, he doesn't really have time nor the energy to question this, as they do look around the desert, seeing some of these strange animals beginning to disperse, some forming packs and running off in different directions, and others staying where they are. And it does have them intrigued. Before they do, go to head back to Kaldi and make sure everything's fine. The people here, they do get the information. The cataclysm has been taken down. And the heroes, they are rewarded handsomely for their efforts. The kingdom of Vanja owes them a debt, one that may not be able to be paid. Had Kaldi fallen, their kingdom very well may have gone into ruins, like many have around the world. And this, it's not something that they can easily repay, though they do make the offer to house the heroes in their nation, and if they do need anything, to let them know. They have a favor from nobles they can call upon, each one of them. And Deku, he does like that idea. Indra herself, quite happy to hear that if they do need something, they've got a king in their pocket for a favor. Her smiling about this, but also about her own improvements. And there is about later that night, everyone, they were able to crash and get some sleep. Though right now outside of the kingdom and a forest nearby, they are all talking about it. They've got food, they've got ale, and they've got a large roaring fire. And Deku, he does continue trying to explain what he did. He just kind of hacked these things together, and it made sense. He just had a pattern start forming in his mind. He doesn't understand it, but then it just worked. And it happened. That still sounds crazy. Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Bakugo going to sit down on a seat as he does get a turn. Right now, going to rip off a piece of the log he's sitting on from behind and going to toss it into the roaring fire. As he does talk about it. So, what do they think is the next event? And when will it be? All of them remaining silent. Oh, Chako going to express. She's really not too sure. She got her level 100 ability though. You did? I did. But I'm not sure what to do with it yet. I haven't made the selection. You can close the screen? You can't? Well, makes sense actually. If it was an event, then yeah. Right. So, what are we gonna do though? If something like that does happen again, then we need to be all nearby. Right. Well, I do have some free time, I know that much. Deku gonna say, talk about how they have a lot to do. But he's almost done training with Theodore. I mean, he's fairly certain when they reach their mentor's rank or they reach a sufficient rank, then they can all go together, right? Maybe go to the front lines and see what's going on there. Indra going to sit down, and she does go to puff out her chest a bit and go to smile, holding up some ale and talking about it. She does believe that that may be what he would advise. Many creatures on the front lines are powerful, but others as well can be deadly. Though, with their current powers, it is a possibility. What would they do, though, over there? Fight. Perhaps, but I believe that Theodore would mention that you need to rest, especially after learning of your huge improvement. That's true. I know he's gonna want me to spec in his skills and spend these damn points, but honestly, even as I am now, I feel like I could take him on. True enough. But what's my level? Him turning. Before he does it, tell her that it's 137. And she does get a smile. Before mentioning. She does still like hearing that. And he does roll his eyes as he does a hold up his ale, taking a large swig before Bakugo does a stand, expressing, holding it up, that he wants to make a toast. Everyone around going to stare on, before the others do come walking back down from the house, talking about a few things. Are they missing out on something? No, you're fine. Pyra making her way over and going to sit down on Deku's lap, asking him, wrapping an arm around him, if he's sure Baku was about to make a toast. I was. Listen, we all come from different worlds. We all find ourselves in this one. But I'd like to apologize to all of you. I was an asshole, though I've gotten better at that. We've all gone through a lot of shit. I've learned that now. I've had some humility beaten into me, so I can say that. Sure you can. Though, did you need me to beat you again? Him giving Deku the bird and ignoring him. Talking about how, as he was saying, still holding up his finger towards Deku. Going to lower it and continuing with a bit of a smirk, hearing everyone begin to somewhat chuckle. When they do figure this all out, perhaps they need to try and take on stronger opponents again. Figure more things out. I mean, go on a dungeon raid. If there's something that they can find, then it could be good, right? This is a pretty crappy speech. Kirishima going to say. And Bakugo does express. Fine. He'll try to be sappy about it. To growth. To friends. Him going to stand. Deku going to hold Pyra in his arm and go to not even spill a drop of his ale. Standing up talking about it. To growth. And Ochako, she does go to clink the mugs together talking about it. To being here. And they do to knock back a drink before someone does start to clap. It being heard over the cheers of everybody. And a man does come stepping out of the forest, expressing, this is quite the event. Him going to look as Deku does get to stare at the man, and his blood does run cold, as he does drop the ale and immediately reach for his weapon. It manifesting in his hand as Pyra does get to hit the ground. Everyone trying to see that momentarily as the man does express. He did mention last time, when they do meet again, they will be enemies. He is here to unfortunately do many things. Do not hold it against him. He is simply fulfilling his duty. He must keep his oath. and he will do what he must. That is what he will do. Tears begin to stream down the man's face, and it does confuse them. I'm here to kill one of you. I'm here to injure one of you. I'm here to break one of you. And one of you will be here to witness that. You will watch, and you will do nothing. As if we'd let that happen. Oliver holding up his weapon and staring on. And he does begin to pour with magic as everyone, they do draw their weapons. And Kirishima, he does go to stand there, getting ready to activate his powers. And Izuku, he does still stare at the sky, thinking about what they can try, what they can do. And the man does get a hold of his hand, holding up a flat palm to stop them. I'm well aware of many of your powerful abilities, an understanding of how you do all operate. Going to lower his hand and point his fingers towards them, expressing, he will try to make this quick. He does not relish killing a child today. Before he does chop his hand down slowly, and the moment that is going to happen, the air pressure around them does immediately flex. Deku feeling mana pour from the attack, and he does a turn. Before he does a shove Pyra directly out of the way and go to turn. Before he does send a gust of wind, sending Baku and some of the others flying away. Deku taking the attack as the ground beneath him does a crack. Blood flying from his shoulder as he is crashing backwards into the ground. Dragging as right now he does feel this wound run through him. And it hurts. And he does go sit there lying on the ground. Before he does look up and see the tree line behind him has been eviscerated. And that attack, it hurt. Before he does gonna try and look down, trying to sit up, but finding that he can't move his legs. Before he does hear chaos begin to ensue. And the man does turn looking towards Deku. As he turns looking at the other heroes. Before he does begin to walk forwards, and everyone, they do start to charge. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.